This used to be such a peaceful little town.
We all set?
Very good.
Everybody ready? It's time to call the Ferrysburg City Council meeting for Monday, July 1st, 2024 to order. Amber, could you read off roll call, please?
Councilmember Montgomery.
Here.
Councilmember Sias.
Here.
Councilmember Murdoch. Here. Councilmember Kate.
Here.
Councilmember DeWitt.
Here.
Councilmember Sturley.
Here.
Mayor Carlson.
Here. If we could all rise now for the invocation by Councilmember Kate, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance.
Gracious God, we thank you so much for the gift of life, for the gift of each day. St. Paul says over and over again in Scripture the words mercy, grace, and peace, and that is our prayer tonight, that you give us all your mercy, give us all grace, and let there be peace during this meeting, during our deliberations, during all the discussion. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving on to agenda item number 5, public comments. This is a time and agenda for any citizen to direct brief comments or questions to the City Council. Time for public comments will be given when the agenda item is discussed. If you have a comment or question, please raise your hand to be recognized by the mayor, and after being recognized, please speak into the microphone and give your name and address for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comment tonight? Yes. A couple of hands out there.
Just to make sure I'm not breaking any rules, this is for non-agenda items too? Is that okay? All right, so my name is Derek Dahlman. My address is 10470 Sunset Lane, Zeeland, Michigan, 49464. And I'm here for public comment tonight because I'm running for Ottawa County Probate Judge to replace Judge Finan, who is retiring this year. So I'm going around and introducing myself to the various councils and boards. Thank you all for having me, and I'll try to be very sensitive with the time. I have been played off the stage before, so I'm not gonna try to say it can't happen, but I appreciate what you guys are doing and for giving me a second to talk. Just a bit of background about me. I'm a lifelong West Michigan resident. I grew up in a small town outside of Kalamazoo, Scotts. It's easier just to say outside of Kalamazoo because nobody up here knows what I'm talking about usually. I started my career here in the Ottawa County Prosecutor's Office, and I then moved into private practice at Cunningham, Dahlman, and Holland. I'm a litigator there, a trial attorney. I wear many different hats, one of which is I'm a deputy city attorney for the city of Holland, so I spend time advising boards and groups such as you all, working alongside law enforcement on various matters, tax appeals. I was with the ZBA last Thursday. So a lot of different things in that regard, including ordinance prosecution. So I've been able to continue that prosecution side for my whole career. One of the hats that I also wear is as a criminal defense attorney. So I regularly have to work both sides of the criminal process, which I think uniquely qualifies me for a judicial position where that is what I would have to do every single case. It's already what I try to do every single case. I do a lot of probate litigation, fighting over wills and trusts and fiduciary responsibilities, or the abdication thereof. Real estate litigation is something I do a lot of. I'm court appointed to represent individuals who are subject to non-voluntary mental health treatment orders. And the list really goes on, but I like to spend part of this time educating people as to what the probate court does, because it seems to be one of those terms that people have heard of but don't really know what happens there. And as the name implies, there are certainly traditional probate matters, wills, trusts, fiduciaries, the things I already talked about. That is also where the individuals go who are subject to the involuntary treatment orders that I mentioned. And I should also mention that I did those on the prosecution side as well when I was in that office. guardianships, conservatorships, happier things like adoptions go on there. That's also currently where juvenile delinquency matters are handled, so kids who have found themselves in trouble, and I manage that docket in the prosecutor's office as well. And that's where right now families go who are subject to abuse and neglect type incidents. Some of that could shuffle around when the Family Justice Center opens in the next month or two, but for right now, that's what goes on there. And another very motivating factor for me is that Judge Fine started the Ottawa County Recovery Court. So individuals who suffer from addiction have the opportunity to pursue sobriety through court involvement and really just make all of us safer as opposed to just sending somebody for jail and that being it, giving people the opportunity to get themselves better and keep all of us safe in the process. Knowing people who have suffered with addiction, knowing people who have suffered with mental illness, these types of things, these types of groups, I'm very passionate about working with. And that kind of leads me to the last thing. I think what really sets me apart or what makes me qualified for this job beyond just the legal experience is the why I want to do it. I think that's important, especially in probate court that's working with some of those vulnerable groups. You have to want to be there for those people, and you have to want to work with those people, and you have to be passionate about it. So I'm very active in youth coaching. I've been doing that for as long as I've had kids, and honestly before, because it's just fun, and I feel like I'm making a change in lives that can last a lifetime. In Holland, I'm on the Holland Teen Court Board, so kids who get in trouble at school have a chance to do that, make themselves better, make their community better, instead of just going straight into the court system. And I'm also very active with a group called the Michigan Outdoor Wishmakers. That's a nonprofit group. We take youth and young adults who live with disability and illness, cognitive, physical, whatever the case may be. We take them on hunting and fishing adventures to empower them, show them they can do things they never thought they could. And we spend a lot of time doing the same with veterans to thank them for their service. So working with those groups is what I'm passionate about. That's why I'm doing this. And again, I thank you all for your time. I do have palm cards here if anybody's interested, but I don't like to force them on people. So unless somebody tells me they want them, I wait. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Derek.
I'll take one of those cards.
Yeah, just drop.
Just drop it.
Any other additional public comment? Yes, please come forward. What item do you want to speak on? That would be in the public hearing upcoming. Okay. Any other public comment back there? Seeing none, let's move forward. Agenda item 6A, consideration of approval of the consent agenda. Approve the June 17th, 2024 City Council minutes as printed.
So moved. Or
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Amber?
Councilmember Sias.
yay.
Councilmember Sturley.
Yes.
Councilmember Murdoch.
Yes.
Councilmember Montgomery.
Yes.
Councilmember DeWitt.
Yes.
Councilmember Kate.
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Very good. Moving on to new business, 7A, public hearing to consider a request by David Brockmeyer for a proposed planned unit development plan for 9 residential units on parcels number 70, 03, 09, 495, 006, and 70, 03, 09, 495, 007, commonly known as 17753 168th Avenue and 17771 168th Avenue. So we're going to open the public hearing at 7:10 p.m. Do we have any public comments regarding the public hearing on the Brockmeyer development? Any comments? Yes.
Thank you.
Feel
My
free to
name-
feel free to tilt that mic so it's pointing right at your. There you go.
My name is, excuse me, my name is Stan Stirk. I live at 16844 Landing Drive. And I've lived in the town, in the city here for a couple of years now. I also happen to be on the Zoning Board of Appeals. I think the project, as the Brockmeyers have presented, is very good. I would like to start with my first comment is that when I was at the Planning Commission and listening Roger Jonah made a comment that the city commission had appointed the planning commission to review projects and to come up with recommendations. This project was recommended at 9 units by the planning commission on a 5-to-1 vote at its last meeting. And Roger said that you had to be cognizant of the fact that you charged the planning commission with reviewing items and coming up with recommendations. And the recommendation was 5-to-1 to approve it. Pre-UDs are designed to handle variations from standard zoning rules. It is impossible to write a set of rules that covers every minute detail. The federal government tries that with its tax code. Printed version of the tax code is probably 2 times 6 feet. If we wrote a planning zoning set of rules that covered every item, it would be that large also. It would be unwieldy. So PUDs were designed to handle variations and to allow for creativity. The current density that is in this project fits, as far as I'm concerned, the rules with a minor rounding error. Property of the south of this area has a density of 3.94 units. Sight lines, yes, they're in Perrysburg zoning rules. They are not a Michigan rule as far as sightline requirements. And if you look at the one property to the north of this, there is a garage that is significantly back of, and if you counted that for your setback requirements off the water, would make a significant variation from what it is now. I think the Collin memorandums significantly cover all the issues, and I would recommend this project for approval as stated with 9 units per acre.
Thank you. Any other public comments in the public hearing period? Yes.
Hello. I'm Janice Doty at 16980 Cecilia Lane. My husband and I are pro-Ferrysburg, pro-growth, pro-development, and know that increasing tax revenues is extremely important. We have repeatedly even applauded this proposal in its creativity. However, we voice our opposition to this proposal and have stated so in letters and at previous Planning Commission meetings. Why? Primarily because of the waterfront setbacks. Full stop. I do not know the neighbors on either side of this property. However, I'm voicing my concern because if it was my house, I would want somebody to fight for me. Fact, the proposal continues to have too many homes, resulting in waterfront setbacks being repeatedly voiced as the primary concern by the majority of citizens who have spoken, come to a number of meetings, and written letters. Those reasons did not matter to the Planning Commission, as there was only one dissenting vote. We're sorry the Brockmeyers can't make 7 or 8 homes work. If so, this project likely would have been approved months ago with very little controversy. I'd love to see development there. I've said that in the very first meeting I came to. It's too many, and too many set of rules and guidelines seem to be bending over backwards to adjust. Again, opinion, not just of me, but others who have been at these meetings. So the Planning Commission said, yes, let's do something, knowing that this was their last proposal. So it was deemed a better way to go, literally saying community input and current criteria does not matter. And that's a fact, and totally their right and their prerogative. And your volunteers, I get it. You're doing the best decisions that you can make. However, the PUD approach nullifies master planning and zoning requirements, and so you're able to do it. I get it. The original proposal was 11 homes, then it was at 123 average setback, when 282 was required without the PDU approach. Then 10 homes were proposed and finally landed on 9 with the setback of approximately 183 feet. Yes, a 50-foot improvement, fantastic, seriously. However, it still falls almost 100 feet short, significantly short of current rules. And yes, you can do the PUD, and that is the prerogative. I know that once Planning Commission makes the decision and it comes to you, that it's most likely to be yes. No one has said we have a problem with change at any of the meetings. Change is, yet we keep hearing the people opposing don't want change. That's absolutely not true. We just want there to be some semblance of the right type of growth on that piece of property, or any property for that matter. And I'm not sure, we keep hearing, it's been a year, it's been a year. Okay, it's been a year. I have no idea why there was a meeting September of 2023, and then the next meeting where the public was invited was April of 2024. What happened in those 7 months? I don't know. It's really none of my business, but it's been a year. So you get rewarded for something because it's been a year in planning and all this time has been put into it. That's how it comes across. However, it is known once it comes to you that your decision is likely to say yes. And to me, the post that was put on Ferrisburg Informed saying that pre-sales would happen soon, not if this is approved or when it's approved, but the assumptive close that pre-sales will be happening before you've even voted. I find that to be a very bold approach. And frankly, the fact that that is out there, why could he not have waited until the vote is taken to put out communication that we're going to start pre-sales, that we're looking for landscapers, that we're looking for snow removal? Yet you haven't even voted yet. City Council should ensure the proposal meets the criteria, or at least comes close versus bending over. And leadership saying no to this proposal and having the patience to wait for the right growth is hard. But at the end of the day, should this pass tonight, we are all adults. We're all going to be fine. You'll be able to say, look at us. We're doing something. We're growing. We're adding 7 homes to the community. It'll make the news cycle. And that's pretty exciting, and I get it. However, for those of us opposing this, we believe this is the wrong decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Ann?
Hi, my name is Ann Smith. I live at 17520 Williams Street. I'm here on behalf of Jason Court, who was unable to make it tonight, and he asked if I could read a text message on his behalf. So here's the message he sent me. Jason Court, 17855 168th Avenue, Spring Lake, Michigan. As the candidate for the District 10 Commissioner, I would like to formally ask to have the Brockmeyer development stopped. Hearing the concerns of some of the neighbors directly and how this takes away their view of the natural beauty of the Smiths Bayou and devalues their property as well as their earned happiness. Please consider the neighbors who will be negatively impacted by this development and the others on our wonderful bayou that we want to keep pristine beauty intact. Thank you, Jason Court, candidate for the District 10 County Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Dave Cook, 17605 168th Avenue. I just want to say the first meeting for this was actually July 6th of last year. So it's been almost a year, and I want to say congratulations, Brockmeyers, you've made it this far. I think that most people in their position would have given up by now. I'm in support of the project. I would say if you're going to approve the project tonight, you look at a way to streamline these types of projects, if this is the type of development you want in Ferrisburg, I think a year's turnaround time is way too long for most people. They're gonna give up, they're gonna go to a different community, and they're probably gonna get their project fast-tracked. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments? I want to thank everyone for speaking so clearly and nicely into the microphone. We've invested a lot of time in our sound system.
I want to thank the city for repairing the system here that allows us to speak freely amongst you
wonderful.
folks and with no echo.
Yes, it's wonderful.
My name is Joe Lyons, and I'm at 16857 Virginia Avenue in Ferrisburg. And I have some comments to make with regard to the Brockmeyer or Cottage Shores program. On April 16th of 2024, I submitted a report to the Ferrisburg Planning Commission with copies to members of the Ferrisburg City Council, expressing my concerns regarding compliance to city zoning general provisions, ordinances, relative to the Cottage Shores proposed development. To this point, I've had no response from any one of those groups. As a member of the Ferrisburg Zoning Board of Appeals, I feel it's my duty to express concern with community land use issues that may need further evaluation regarding compliance to zoning requirements. It's the responsibility of the ZBA to evaluate the resident requirements to build on their property outside of the current zoning laws. People know that I'm not, please know that I'm not speaking on behalf of the zoning board. I'm speaking on behalf of Joe Lyons. But my concerns have also been not only voiced to the council and to the planning commission, but have also been voiced at ZBA meetings. And basically my concern here is that there hasn't been a community liaison in order to, with the zoning board, the planning commission, council, and our zoning administrator to evaluate this thing a little bit further. I'm going to, in my opinion, the purpose of the Cottage Shores development meets the intended land use requirements, but it is, as presently submitted, in violation of specific requirements of the zoning ordinance, which must be addressed and resolved prior to council approval. My suggestion within the letter that I submitted in April was that members of the ZBA, the Planning Commission, Council, the City Zoning, so forth and so on, iron out these problems. That hasn't happened. There hasn't been a meeting, and I don't understand why we don't do this consistently on PUDs, which have really a good purpose in allowing a committee within the city, volunteer committee, to evaluate these programs and look at the possibility of going over and above and using flexibility of the zoning ordinances. I agree with Mr. Sturks in that regard, and that we would have way too big of a zoning ordinance if we didn't if we tried to write a law for every one of these. So please be advised that I'm in favor of any resident's rights to development and use of their property. In my opinion, the Cottage Shores development, while meeting the needs of the owner and the community needs, it needs additionally revised to fall within the confines of the community zoning laws. And a few things that I want to, my primary concerns: Spring Lake quality preservation. The property's proposed density will develop potential lake water pollution. Number two, density of the proposal as it relates to minimum requirements of building separation and lot size. Simply put, the proposal demands more units than practical for reasons of drainage, primary entry street and pedestrian walkway layout, and emergency vehicle access. 3, adjacent property owners' sight line visibility, and I think this is one of the most important issues that needs to be resolved on this issue. I've seen the new proposal for the 9 units, and it still doesn't meet that requirement. And I think that's a very important property, I should say adjacent property owners' right to have the vision of the waterfront areas. I have a question with regard to the floodplain area being used for stormwater retention. I know there has been some deviation, some change to that in the proposal that's been put in front of you with regard to this unit. But that needs to be looked at, and I'm not sure that Eagle would give an approval for the water retention being included in the wetlands area. Most importantly, approval of the Cottage Shores development as presented will set precedent for approval of potential similar multiple unit developments of lakefront properties. The approval will result in the need of the city to approve them, and as such, we need to be particularly prudent in assuring the first project of this nature is properly developed within all city, state, and federal requirements. If we don't, and subsequently we deny any future development that meets or exceeds this project, the city may be subject to legal review, and that could be very costly. Thank you. Appreciate this opportunity to provide my opinion.
Thank you, Joe. Anyone else? Yes, please come forward.
It's Doug Johnson at 17808 168th. I'd like to start out by saying, Dave, anything I got to say, it's nothing personal towards you, but if you were improving our neighborhood, if you had an old shack, you were tearing down, making it nice, but there's 2 beautiful homes across the street from my mom, and what he's putting there, I don't think is going to do anything to beautify it any. But he's going to tear them down to put like a small city in there. Really, there's 3 people that benefit very well from it. Not sure how much you benefit, but the city would benefit tax-wise, and what you call your deep pocket investors would definitely, benefit. But and right now my mom has to kind of pick and choose when she crosses the street to get her mail. She's 91 years old, and during rush hour, doesn't dare make the trek. So adding another 7 houses there isn't gonna make it easier for her to cross the street, since she lives right across the street. So I guess that's all I really had. Just kind of personal.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else in the public hearing comment? Yes, Ron?
I've worn out my welcome if you know my name before I stand up here. All right, but a lot of you know me, and thank you, council members, for allowing me to speak this evening. I represent the Bridenstines, who live directly to the south of this project at 17735 168th Avenue. And they are, of course, going to be impacted more than anybody by this proposal, and it's going to fundamentally change the neighborhood in which they live. So I hope you'll pay some very close attention to the concerns I'm going to raise tonight. And what I want to do first is compliment the Planning Commission on the good faith efforts they made to apply the master plan and zoning ordinance. I don't doubt their very good intentions and the hard work that they put in to try to address this PUD. But having been at these several meetings where this was discussed, I can't help but have the observation that there was an unfortunate sort of duress that was placed on them by the developer. And that's kind of an overlying threat all the time that he was going to pack up his toys and go home if he didn't get his 9 units or more. And threat's a little strong of a word, and I don't want to make it sound that violent, if you will. But it was a constant hold over the planning commission that if you don't give me at least 9 units, I'm not gonna do this, and you're not gonna get this tax base in your city. And moreover, there was this criticism that the first time I came here for this preliminary PUD, nobody said much, and now I'm caught off guard by all this criticism I'm getting. The thing is, none of those comments have anything to do with the standards you apply under the ordinance, and the Planning Commission shouldn't have felt this duress that they had to do something that doesn't comply with the ordinance just because of a developer's threat. So I want to focus tonight on those particular discrete areas where I think it really had an inordinate and inappropriate impact on the Planning Commission's decision-making. And in bringing these things to your attention, it's important to remember that even though your Planning Commission is a recommending body, that is what they are, just a recommending body, and your ordinance places final decisions for PUDs in your hand for a reason. These are significant projects, and you're not just a rubber stamp. Okay, and it is somewhat untoward that the developer was already advertising this project units for sale before you've even approved it. It suggests an assumption that you're going to act as a rubber stamp, which gives the public not a real good feeling about the way things are operating behind the scenes. So I'd really hope that that is not the way the council is going to operate, just as a rubber stamp. So let me address the principal problems with this development. First, you've got the issue of a PUD being on this property at all. And the first observation you can make, and this is true, it's in the plain text of your master plan, is this property is not even called out for PUD development under your master plan. The master plan calls out several discrete properties that are greater than 3 acres and are vacant for master plan development, or excuse me, for PUD development. This is not one of them. Now, it was pointed out by your planner at the last meeting that that's not necessarily disqualifying, and that's true because a master plan is guidance and recommendation. But as you're stacking up the sticks, if you will, on each side of the balance as to whether you approve a PUD or not, that's a factor that weighs against it. Your master plan does not recommend this land for a PUD, okay? And then the overriding requirement in every set of standards you see for a PUD in your ordinance, whether it's incorporated in the PUD standards itself, in the special land use standards that also apply to PUDs, or in the general site plan review standards, is you have to show that the development is harmonious and compatible with the surrounding uses. And I submit to you that when you're talking about this dense quasi-subdivision with homes so close to the water in these circumstances, that you can't possibly conclude that this is harmonious and compatible. What you have here is a very unique and special area of Smith's Bayou that has always had large lot development. And the neighbors, including the Bridenstines, have bought into this area with the expectation that that's how this land was going to be developed. And let me just hand this to you. It's a map of the area I'm talking about.
Thank you.
Just for some context. This is this special area of Smith's Bayou. And what's unique about this is the existing density of these 6 lots in this area is only 0.54 units per acre. Specifically, there's just 6 homes on 10.94 acres. So what you're bringing in here, if you were to approve this, is something that would massively and irreparably change this area. It would increase the density in this one project area by 582%. Do you hear that number? It is going to change the density in this one area by 582%. This is the proverbial example of trying to jam 10 pounds of sugar into a 5-pound bag, or more appropriately, 100 pounds of sugar into a 1-pound bag in this circumstance. The other unique feature here, and it's been brought out by other commenters who made some very good points, is that these homes have an average setback of 282 feet from the water, which is the minimum setback standard for this area. This project would, again, massively and irreparably change that character as well, because PUD is proposing a 40% reduction from that standard, okay? Another huge variation. So the better conclusion here from a pure land use and planning perspective is that this is not the type of land nor the type of PUD that ought to be allowed under your ordinance. Now, there's another special feature here that you have to deal with, and the Planning Commission frankly did not deal with. And that's the fact that this parcel is under 3 acres. And under your zoning ordinance, the general rule is that PUDs are not to be approved on parcel sizes of less than 3 acres. This is not 3 acres. So the general rule is you don't approve PUDs on this type of property of this size. Now, there is an allowance that allows you to approve something smaller, but the project has to satisfy 4 standards, every one of them. And there's one which it was clear that the developer didn't like, the Planning Commission members weren't real fond of, but it's in your ordinance and you have to comply with it. And what the developer has to show is that the reduction from 3 acres is not proposed due solely to the inability of the applicant to meet the normal requirements of the zoning district in which the PUD is proposed. So in other words, the developer must show that they're not seeking a PUD just to get waivers from the requirements of the RP district that apply to this property. And this is not a discretionary or a subjective standard. The developer has shown or has shown that he is seeking a PUD for the sole reason of getting waivers from the requirements of the RP district. And I would challenge anybody who sat in this audience or anybody who sat through the Planning Commission proceedings to find a single Planning Commission member who could articulate how this standard was satisfied, because it wasn't. In fact, the developer admitted the opposite. Because I see in your proposed approving resolution, it makes reference to the June 6, 2024 memo from engineering as to why this standard is satisfied. But it doesn't even come close to satisfying that standard. It completely misses the mark. Because if you read that memo closely, and I have, it says that the reason they're doing this project as a PUD is because doing this project as a condominium allows a unique creative development where a compact community of residents can share in communal attributes without the cost and responsibility that large lots demand. Let's break that statement down. Number one, they're pursuing a condominium that will have communal attributes without the cost and responsibilities that large lots would. Here's the problem. You don't need a PUD to do that. Under your zoning ordinance, specifically section 3.100, it allows condominium project as a single use, a single principal use on a single site. So you do not do a PUD in order to do a condominium. So that part of the justification is false. The rest of it is that you're going to have a unique, creative, compact community. You know what compact is? Compact is a euphemism for I need waivers from the standards of the RP district, because the reason it's compact is because it doesn't meet the standards of the RP district. As set forth in the memo from your own planner, they need 3 waivers from the requirements of the RP district. They need a waiver from the waterfront setback. They need waivers from the front setback. And finally, waivers from the minimum sidewalk setbacks. And the developer came out overt and admitted this is why he's pursuing a PUD at the beginning of this project, said, this project is, quote, dead in the water, end quote, if I don't get the waivers from the water. So you've got the developer stating multiple times that the only reason this project is being pursued is to get waivers, okay? That's not even a debatable point, really. And the Planning Commission just was not comfortable with this standard for whatever reason. Maybe it was the overt pressure they were getting that the developer was going to walk away, and that shouldn't happen. The fact is, the only reason a PUD is being pursued is for waivers, and for that reason, it doesn't satisfy the standard for a less than 3 acre product and ought to be denied. So that's the reasons why you shouldn't have a PUD here generally. Now that aside, even if you were to go with a PUD, there's problems here. And again, it's density, like the other commenters pointed out. The master plan recommendation is that the density should be no more than 3 units per acres. Now, it was pointed out at the last planning commission meeting, is that it doesn't say it can't be, first, because master plans aren't written that way. They're guidance documents. But the corollary of a statement that says the density should be no more than 3 units per acre is that the density should not be more than 3 units per acre. So my question to you is, why would you approve a PUD that goes directly against the density recommendation of your master plan? The only way to get the density consistent with the master plan recommendation is to take out 1 unit down to 8, and you had 1 planning commission member who correctly recognized that. And when you look at density, it leads to the second factor, which is the tangential impact of that, which is that the project is subject to waterfront setback averaging under section 3.270B of your zoning ordinance. And simply enough, this is a standard you wrote into the zoning ordinance, adopted as the city council, which makes sure that people who live on existing bodies of water don't have their view shed impacted by new development. And to that end, what you do is you take the average setback of your neighbors on each side, and that becomes the setback you have to satisfy. Okay? So using that hard and fast requirement of the zoning ordinance, the minimum setback here is 282 feet. And you know, I take issue with the planner's memo that was put together for this, which seemed to have some hallmarks of trying to justify 9 units. Which said that the minimum setback for the RP district is only 40 feet. Well, that's literally true. That's really misleading for lack of context. It's devoid of context because in those parts of the RP district that abut a body of water, that is not the minimum waterfront setback. It is done under section 3.20B, and the waterfront setback for this property is 282 feet for the RP district. That's what the setback standard is for this property. And again, what you have here is a developer seeking an enormous deviation from that, 40%, 110 feet. Like I said to the planning commission, that's not a waiver. That's not a waiver from the waterfront setback averaging. That's like driving a Mack truck through the purpose and intent of the standard. Why bother having it in your ordinance at all if every time a PUD comes through, you're gonna do that to it? Just massacre it, okay? And do you really want to set that type of precedent where somebody does a PUD, suddenly waterfront setback averaging doesn't matter? I don't think you would want to do that. And the other thing that was a little disconcerting, and I'm sure this was unintentional, but the planner's memo kind of presented a cherry-picked version of what setbacks are around Smith's Bayou. And again, hand this out by way of example, it's not meant to be all inclusive. But the planner's memo cherry-picked some data, say, well, around the bayou, there's some other places on Coast Street that have a 52-foot setback on average. Well, that's not the way the whole bayou is. I give you a couple examples here on the west side the planner was looking at, and you'll see backs are quite substantial in the range of 47 to 164 feet. So these large setbacks are not something out of the ordinary on the bayou, okay? And that really was an accurate presentation in the planner's memo, which again, I thought gave a somewhat tilted view towards trying to create a justification for 9 units because the developer threatened to walk away if he didn't get that. And again, so remember, you know, if you're gonna throw these neighbors under the bus, if you will, of this not complying with this waterfront setback averaging, you know, is that what you're going to do to every neighbor who comes through who lives next door to one of these PUDs? I would really. So that's the major point. All right. That's wired to the zoning ordinance and the master plan and the standards you're supposed to satisfy. But just one thing I want to follow up on. One thing the developer agreed to at the last planning commission meeting is that they would reduce the dock slip only to the number of home units. It's still showing 12, and so he has not complied with that promise. At a minimum, if you were to approve this in any way, shape, or form, you ought to require that the number of docks be limited to the number of units, which again should be no more than 8. And the developer, again, acquiesced to that. So just up on this point, I just really hope you can insulate yourself from this tacit threat that's been held over the Planning Commission that you're going to get a developer who's going to threaten to walk away. Because the fact is, you know, I've been doing this business for 25 years, as both a Planning Commission chair for 14 years, a board member, and municipal zoning and land use attorney. Guess what? You hear that all the time. Everybody threatens, developers threaten this, they're going to walk away if they don't get what they want. Well, guess what? They don't. It's a tactic. So I hope as public servants, you can really give close and careful attention to the people who are really going to be impacted by this, not be impacted by that type of threat, and apply sound planning principles that your zoning ordinance recommends. And to that end, again, we don't think a PUD ought to be on this property at all, but if you at least take it down to 8 units, it allows them to reconfigure it in a way where the biggest and kind of most grotesque impact will go away, and that's hurting people's sight lines to the lake and keeping compliance with your waterfront setback averaging, which really ought to be done here. So thank you for your patience with my comments, and thank you for your kind and careful attention to this matter.
Thank you.
You bet.
Additional public comments in the public hearing period? Yes, please come forward if you're ready to speak.
Hi, my name is Mike Klaus, 16901 Carlson Street, directly looking at where the development will be. House, dock, deck, looks directly at this. My points, everybody preceding me, we are in opposition. We've submitted a couple letters that I know have been read into the planning committee, so I won't go through that. And I kind of, everybody that's went before me has been very articulate, and the last gentleman was especially articulate around. I want to kind of summarize, and I'm a businessman, and I understand what's going on here, and I do want to voice that I'm fully, and my wife are fully in support of the development of Ferrisburg, fully. But this particular development, for all the reasons articulated earlier, there's 4 primary areas that I'm concerned about: economic, environmental, regulatory, and aesthetics. Certainly, aesthetics are subjective. We all bought into the bayou with certain expectations of what we're going to do and how it was going to develop and how it was going to grow. And this is in direct opposition to that belief, personal belief, as well as others that I've talked to, in terms of the view lines, the sight lines, how the community looks. It's a significant diversion from what the bayou is today. That's on the aesthetic side. On the regulatory side, either in terms of all the things that were stated earlier, we see that there's a number of variances. I'm not articulate in the law associated with the PUD nor the regulations, but it was very clearly articulated earlier. There are significant variances that have to be considered, and I'll kind of wrap that into the environmental and the economic things. The things that I've heard previously, and having tried to listen to the early June meeting, so thank you for the system, was difficult to understand. But the things that I did pull out was, which is a very common negotiating tactic alluded to by the previous speaker, in terms of when regulatory or compliance issues come into play. The negotiating tactic is always to go far beyond, and everybody feels better if we settle, but we're still way off from what the regulatory environment is. That's very standard practice in business, in government. That's very common to do that. So I don't understand why the Planning Commission didn't initially say, bring me a plan that meets the requirements. As others have said, I think everybody would have approved that. But instead, we keep kind of inching back towards them but with significant variance. So I think that needs to go into consideration. There is a plan that could be approved that would meet all the requirements for development on both of those properties. And they probably would then allow for meeting some of the other requirements, both environmental and aesthetic. And finally, the economic impact. I haven't seen anything, and that doesn't mean it hasn't been done, but certainly the Planning Commission and yourself should understand what the potential real economic impact is to Ferrisburg. And if, in assessing that, understand the variance between the economic impact of 6 or 5 or 7 homes and the tax base that generates at a higher value than 9 or whatever number at a lower value would generate. So as well as the development and the ability to do so, I'm aware of several people who would invest and develop properties at substantially less units or homes and reap significant rewards for that. So I'd ask that the council go back to the Planning Commission and get the facts on the economics that are the right things for Ferrisburg and understand what the trade-offs might be. I haven't seen that. So in conclusion, I'm in opposition of this development as it is, but not in opposition to the development of Ferrisburg. Thank you.
Anyone else with public comment? Yes.
And then a comment, but Valerie Blondin, 17728 170th Avenue. And I know this, and I just want to make sure I understand what the numbers are. The average setback right now in Ferrisburg, you quoted what around the lake, what was that? Right. That's the average. And then what is it for requirement for the PUD? That's why I'm confused.
110 feet.
Okay, so 282 is the requirement, correct? This is 110 different than that, is what I'm hearing. And then the average currently in the area is, I think, but I didn't catch the number. You turned your head a little bit when you said it, so I didn't catch the actual number. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm just asking whoever has it. I didn't catch the number, and I wanted, if it was part of the argument, I wanted to hear what the information was, and I just didn't catch it. And I don't know if anybody knows what that is, if it's average on that side.
Each parcel would, the average setback would be determined by the parcels to the north and to the south.
Okay.
Or to the east or to the west, whatever. You go 200 feet on either side and then you take the average, that's what the first parcel, that's what that average would be.
Around 200. Is that what you're saying?
Depends on where you are in the city.
Okay. All right, I just didn't, I heard some argument, so I was wondering if anybody had that number. Okay, thank you.
Any other additional public comment? Yes, please come forward.
Tim Scarpino, 17761 Bayberry in Ferrisburg. And forgive me, I'm going to read from prepared text, thinking I only had 3 minutes, but given the length that others have had up here, I kind of wish I would have spent a little bit more time on this. But I will read from prepared remarks for the purpose of time and conciseness. As I have shared on a number of public occasions, my wife and I are friends of Dave and Paige Brockmeyer. We live directly to the east of them, with only the Johnson Farm between us. I've been following this project since before it was presented to the Ferrisburg Planning Commission and have supported its approval and the Brockmeyers since I first learned of it. I've lived in Ferrisburg for close to 30 years, and as many of you know, have served the community on city council and various boards and commissions. I've done so because I want to see this community, the community I raised my children in, to continue to thrive and to grow. We're now at another moment when a decision is made to continue carefully considered and planned growth that benefits not only the immediate neighborhood, but just as importantly, the entire community. And it should be said, it's the entire community that must largely factor into your decision this evening. I know there is a concern and apprehension about the project, just as there is for virtually any project that represents a change. But let's be clear, Smith's Bayou was a really pretty serene place before any house was built there. But over time that changed, and it will continue to change as a precondition for our city continuing to grow. I talked about my service to the city. I currently serve as chairman of the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority and Economic Development Committee. I'm not here this evening representing that group. I am here to say I believe that economic development encompasses more than just businesses opening up in the city. It also encompasses residential development, which is key to everything that our citizens expect from our government. This project represents the kind of thoughtful, planned, and creative development that will pay dividends now and well into our future. I can't think of any residential association in our city that could be considered a detriment to its immediate neighborhood or the community at large. That's why I support planned unit developments as a means to fashion a project that meets the aesthetic and fiscal needs of our city. It's why I support this project, and it's a big reason why your planning commissions, the citizens you've appointed to thoughtfully review and consider these kinds of projects, it's why they gave it an overwhelming vote of confidence. For the better part of a year, the Brockmeyers and the Planning Commission have worked to develop a creative residential concept. In all my years of involvement with the city, I have not encountered a developer who has been more open to change and more concerned about transparency with his neighbors and the city. I guess that's what you would expect from someone looking forward to continuing calling Ferrysburg his home. Sitting at the dais can be difficult on an evening like this with a room full of citizens. But as you know, there are thousands of people who aren't here. They trust their government to act thoughtfully and rationally in service to the entire city. The planning tools and people we have in place have looked at the Brockmeyer proposal and found it to be worthy of your approval. Our residents deserve nothing less than a vote that reflects the expectations of all our residents and the competent and professional work of your planning commission and city staff. And you, sir, to say that Mr. Brockmeyer and his efforts have threatened anybody or has acted unprofessionally or inappropriately is simply wrong, and you owe him an apology. Thank you.
Do we have any additional public comment? Going once? Okay. Let's close the public comment hearing period at 7:58, Craig. Moving on to new business, item 7B, discussion and take action if appropriate to adopt or not adopt a resolution approving a planned unit development and special land use request for a residential conventional condominium development with 9 single-family detached dwelling units served by private streets and driveways at 17,753 168th Avenue and 17,771 168th Avenue, parcels number 70 0309 495 006 and 70 0309 495 007.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'd make a motion to deny the request.
Support.
I move that we open a discussion to approve this.
On the table now.
On the table now.
We have this on the tables, we have discussion.
We're
Your
gonna
Honor?
hear from the developer.
Nope. I got the floor.
You do?
Your Honor, I'm concerned that our city planner isn't here to answer some of the questions that it would appear that he has bent over backwards to make this project happen. Couple things. Number one, I didn't see any addressment here on a 9-foot fence on the north side with a retaining wall and a privacy fence. That is in direct violation of several city codes. Yeah, I don't have them right in front of me. The other problem I got is you're putting a street in and you're designating sidewalk on each side of the street as part of the street. Now, my definition in my mind of a sidewalk is a safe place for people to walk and designated separately from the street. My concern is, if somebody has a big party, there's a bunch of cars parked on that street. One of the residents that is not participating in the party has a 5-year-old kid over with a Hot Wheels or whatever they call them nowadays. He's riding on the sidewalk. Somebody pulls out to pass the cars that are parked because your driveway is a little undersized. Hits and kills the kid. And my question is, what is the city's responsibility here? If we allow this to pass without a sidewalk being designated separately with a raised curb or whatever, however, or off the street, City of Ferrisburg approved this. Any competent attorney is gonna come right back. Brockmire is gonna be long gone. The association is gonna have $1 million liability policy, general liability, and guess who's gonna end up footing the bill on this? Worst case scenario. My thought is, I gotta say, I'm in favor of the project at there's as somebody on the planning commission said, this is 10 pounds of in a 5-pound bag. There's no reason that you can't develop this and meet all the criterias. The only difference is at 6 or 7, I'm not exactly sure what the number would be. You could meet all the criterias without any PUD and satisfy all the zoning regulations as it exists. The whole thing here is greed, plain and simple. You want 9 instead of 6 or 7, which would meet all the requirements. This is my turn to talk. Okay. The other question I got. City planner came to the planning commission and said, we need waterfront setbacks. There was a big to-do about an issue on North Shore Road. Planning commission approved it, city council approved it, and made it law, basically. As I've been chairman of the zoning board, I've been on the zoning board 15, 20 years, I don't know exactly. Anyway, the city planner recommends that we enforce it. We've enforced it on several projects already, where the waterfront setback averaging. And now he's saying it doesn't matter. This makes no sense to me. This is, Brockmire's and the neighbor to the north, their names escapes me. They bought that property with the express view of seeing the lake. We passed that ordinance to protect that sightline of the lake. And basically, we're gonna throw that out the window so somebody can make some money. Now, it makes no sense to me. We're violating city ordinances. The city ordinances, the planning rules, they're law. It's not discretionary. Now, Mr. I don't know his name. Anyway, he said that we have discretion. That is true. Just remember, any discretion we have sets precedent. And I'll guarantee you, if any of the people on this board or any other resident was looking at this 9-foot wall next to their house instead of the lake, they would be upset. And one of us here would approve it if it was our house that was looking at that 3-foot or 4-foot berm, a retaining wall with a 5-foot privacy fence. Code says 3-foot in the waterfront, period. So now you're looking at a 6-foot variance. I didn't see that in here as a city planner. I think at the very least, we should kick this back to the planning commission and at least, there's just too many issues with this. One thing I didn't quite catch is the private street coming in. The reason that your sidewalk was on the street level was to allow emergency vehicles to access the back parcels if there's cars parked on the street. No, I'm just saying that's, you had, what was, all right, so I guess I'm done with it.
So can I get some clarification?
Mr.
Mike?
DeWitt, are you going to continue?
Yeah, I guess I'm done.
I just
You
want
sure?
I just want clarification on one of the things you brought up, the sidewalk. So is your concern somebody drives onto the sidewalk and hits someone?
Well, you have 4 public parking spots in this project.
Right.
Okay, so you got, somebody's having a party, you got 30 people,
Mhm.
15 cars. Okay, they're gonna park on the street,
Sure.
okay?
Sure.
Common sense.
Yep.
Okay. The sidewalk, they're using the sidewalk as parking for the street, basically.
Or assume people wouldn't park on the sidewalk. They'd
On
park
one
the
side of the
street.
road. So now the cars are swerving past the cars that are parked on the street. We have to, my thought is, any competent attorney is gonna sue, they're not gonna sue, the development is gonna have a minor liability policy. So they're gonna come after the city because we approved that sidewalk. Craig, can you let?
I mean, do we think this is any different than a drunk driver driving on the bike path?
No, but the bike path is designated bike path and it's not on the road. So you have an expectation of safety on bike path. On the sidewalk, look out here, the sidewalks are raised off the street. You have expectation of safety on it. It's not designed as a parking, as I read one of the requirements.
I understand. I mean, I could say the same thing about my front yard when everybody parks in it when they come to vote. But
The city's not,
I get what you're saying.
but the city's not liable for your front yard.
Craig, what about is there, are some of these fences I'm missing that are over 6 feet?
They're proposing a retaining wall on the north and south side with a privacy fence on each retaining wall. And we'll go to, would be up to the front yard to the rear yard. We're not extending to the waterfront yard.
So that would be within our current ordinances,
Correct.
wouldn't it? So what are you
Higher the fence, yes.
Well, that's not exactly true. If you got a 3-foot retaining wall with a 5-foot fence, our current code says 5 foot up to 7 foot or 8 foot in the side yard. You're over that side yard, correct? Fence ordinance says maximum 8 foot with in the rear yard. So until you get to the front of the house, then it's 3 foot on waterfront, correct?
So from the rear foundation to the waterfront, it can only be 3 foot high. From, on the waterfront lot, a 6 foot fence can be between the rear foundation and the front foundation, and the front yard can only be a 3 foot high fence.
Right, so 6 foot, not 9 foot.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
So you got a 3 foot berm with a 5 foot fence. As I once saw one of the prints, it was 4 foot berm. So that would not be anywhere as close to standard, correct?
Sure, I'm proposing some 4 foot retaining wall, yes.
So is the retaining wall added to the total height of the fence?
Yes.
It cannot be used, a retaining wall cannot be used to increase the height of the fence, correct?
Okay.
You measure from the ground level on the outside of the fence, not from the fill level up.
Craig, also, somebody brought up tonight some environmental concerns. If this is, hypothetically, if this is approved tonight, they can't build tomorrow, right? They still have to get environmental permits and approval.
That's correct. We need to get Ottawa County Drain Commissioner to approve things. Our city engineer has to approve things yet. The state has to approve certain things, and
okay.
Anyone else have anything to add? Jerry?
Yeah, Your Honor. Personally, I'm not against development. It's how I've made my living most of my life. And I feel that a city needs to develop in order to stay fresh and to reinvent itself as it needs to. But not every development is good development, and I think that's what we're facing here. I don't see this as any benefit, great benefit to our city. This development will forever change the dynamic of the neighborhood on Smith's Bayou, and it will always change the dynamic of Smith's Bayou. And once we do this, we can never go back. It's done. So we need to really consider what we're doing here. I see this as a blatant overreach of our zoning. The zoning is put in place for a purpose, and that's to ensure that we're all good neighbors and that we all follow the same rules. This does not fit that criteria. Another thing is we already have overdevelopment on our bayous and our lakes, and it's starting to really affect the water quality, as we just discussed here last month. And the people on the lake already are fed up with paying the fees to keep our lakes clean. What is this going to do? This is going to add more phosphorus to our waters. This is not a good development. On most developments and most waterways, there's at least 100-foot setback or more. And that's for a reason. That's so the runoff doesn't go into the water. And I know that Mr. Brockmeyer has worked consistently with the planning to try to reach his, to kind of make his development less effective on the community and on the bayou, but I still feel that it's still overreaching. And it sounds to me like most residents on the bayou would be okay with 8 new condos on that site. And I understand that maybe that's not an option for the developer because of finances, but I'm not willing to vote yes on a project just because it doesn't fit the developer's financial aspects. And so I will not support this.
Anyone else?
Oh, yes. Someone said they fully support new development, but just not in their backyard. Let them go to somebody else's backyard and do that. That's exactly what you said. That's exactly what was said here. They fully support development. And I'm adding, just not in their backyard. My neighbor, I live on the lake. My neighbor built a pool house 3 feet from my property line. I no longer can see the lake from my side yard. I called the city. There is nothing to be done about it. So if you lose your sight line on the side, you're out of it. Too bad. You still have your front. You don't have the side yard anymore. So I don't have any sympathy for that. I am empathetic because I understand people don't like change. I have a multi-million-dollar house being built in my neighborhood. It doesn't fit at all. None of us have those kind of houses. What can you do? That's the way it goes. You just have to live with it. Well, they did. They did. And if you didn't want a development there, then why wouldn't you just buy the properties yourself? And then he wouldn't have been able to do that. That would have been a good solution. We need affordable lakefront property. He's going to do that. There are no more lakefront properties available. I have no problem. We have the Gables, we have Vites Landing. There's nothing wrong with those condo developments. This isn't going to hurt anything. The properties on Smith Bayou are very different. You have little teeny cottages, you have big houses. This isn't going to change how this feels in Smith Bayou at all. The aesthetics is questionable when you're concerned about what he's building. They look like they're very nice little houses. So my opinion is, let Ferrysburg grow. We need the tax base.
Anyone else?
Got it? Oh, go ahead, Jake.
I was wondering if we were going to let the developer speak on some of the concerns that
We
were
are.
before we vote. Okay.
Of course. You have anything else to add?
Not until I hear from the developer, no.
Okay, very good.
Got it. Just to, oh,
You've already had it. Yeah. Before we hear from the developer,
so who gets to go?
Mr. Cate?
Just a comment. I live in the middle of a 100-unit condominium development where the nearest body of water is a retention pond at the development across the street. So I'm having a real hard time emphasizing with this, but I hear both sides, and I promise I will give it due consideration as best I can. But I don't have to worry about where to put my boat in.
Got it. Just to bring up a point here, I've read probably, 90 letters, emails. Not one person on Smith's Bayou has supported this. Everybody that supported it, well, I take that back. One, Kira Garbani supported it. Regardless, I've read, I don't know how many.
Not only is it not true, is a member of the planning commission lives on Smith's Bayou and approved this project.
Your Honor, point of order.
Go ahead.
I did not attend the planning commission meetings, so I can't speak to who was there. Okay, and what they said. The emails I've read and the letters have not been, anyone on the actual bio has supported it. The support has come from people on West Spring Lake Road. Mr. Scarpino, he doesn't live on the lake, he lives off the lake. Granted, he's been a quarter mile or whatever. I just wanted to bring that up because I spent most of the weekend reading all the letters and emails and such what. And most of the people, I've been on Smith's Bayou since early 50s, mid 50s. Most of the people I know, there's new people that I don't know, I've never met, but I just want to put that out there that most of the people on the bio and everyone I personally have talked to has been opposed to it, so that out there.
Very good. Craig, has City Hall kept track of all the emails that we received on Planning Commission for yay and nay in
Yes.
support of the project?
Yes.
How did that set?
I didn't tally it up. No, I didn't. We have all the letters and emails.
Okay.
And they were all distributed to City Council earlier.
I thought it was fairly split with the letters,
That's
was it
what I
not?
thought as well.
I don't have a tally.
If you had to ask me, it was fairly split. Okay. Anyone else have anything before we bring the Brockmeyers up?
Your Honor.
Yes.
I wanted to make a comment to Debbie's concerns, one thing, Deb, I understand you're upset about the house being built next to you, but that house meets the zoning regulations, correct? I think it does. What we're facing here is something where we're rewriting the zoning ordinances for one development. I mean, this is overlooking many zoning ordinances, not just one or two. And it might just be a little bit above a zoning ordinance here and just a little bit on this side of it, but that's not being neighborly. We got to think about our community and how we feel. And the only people that are going to be benefited by this are the development company and the people who, at the end of the day, are making the money. And the neighbors in the neighborhood will all be in disarray and upset, and we're going to feel it for a long time. So I really hope that people up here take in deep consideration what we're about to vote on. That's all.
Honor, can I ask, we're not rewriting any zoning laws.
No, we're not.
Giving him waivers.
That's correct.
We're not rewriting anything. This is merely a waiver.
There's 3 waivers being requested.
Right, so there's no rewriting any zoning laws.
Well, we might as well, because we do it for one, we might as well do it for everybody, I wanted to build a pole barn in my backyard, but I can't do that because it's against zoning. Is somebody gonna give me a PUD for it? No, because I'm not a developer. Nobody cares about Jerry's pole barn. Okay?
Thank you.
That's all.
Okay, very good. Mr. Brockmeyer.
Can I say one more thing, Rich? One more before we get to Brockmeyer?
Go ahead.
Just as we continue to deliberate this, I really want to ask that everybody in the audience and up here, that we stick to the facts. I hear a lot of insinuations. I hear a lot of talking on behalf of unnamed people. Let's stick to facts. Let's speak on our behalf. And I understand that some of us are trying to make a persuasive argument, but I think it's important as we deliberate as a body that we keep it to a factual basis. That's it.
Point well taken. Mr. Brockmeyer, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Believe
To
it or
your
not.
city hall.
After I've been called a greedy bastard. And threatening people all the time. I do that a lot. So I've finally been called out. Craig, Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for your time and efforts to resolve these kinds of issues. It's not easy to be up in your seat. It's not easy to be in this seat either sometimes. But I'm excited and I'm going to read just a tiny little bit. Bruce Colleen from our engineering team, head of our engineers, is going to be speaking to some of the very specific things, the data points that some of you have brought out that are flatly incorrect. So, but I want to just give a little bit. I'm sorry to the audience. Most of you have already heard some of this. Mr. Mayor, you have as well. But let's see, where do I start? By way of introduction, for those who don't know me, my wife Paige and I have been blessed to stumble upon this town and a lovely piece of property that we bought from the Beebes over 25 years ago. We've lived here the entire time. We have 3 kids, graduated from Grand Haven High School. We've made great friends, including people in this room. We volunteer, we contribute, and we built a nice life here. We're really lucky to be here. We love this town. I thought about running for council prior to this, and opted not to. But it's been perfect for us, and we care about what happens here. We intend to live in this property, so the idea that I'm going to be long gone in a year or whatever is absurd. I've stated very clearly over and over and over again, we will be living on this property. We'll be living on this property no matter what happens for a very long time. So I think that's unique to other developers who might come into town and propose something. And one of the reasons that not a whole lot of new development has happened in Ferrysburg is because of, well, there's probably a number of factors, but there has not been a new single-family home, standalone single-family home development in Ferrisburg in probably 25 plus years. I don't know how long it's been. Vites is at least 25 years old. Gables is 25 years old. This yellow one's over here, I don't know, 20 years old. But those are all joined townhouse style condos. This is standalone single family homes we're talking about here. So we met with the Planning Commission over a year ago, and just to clarify a comment that somebody made, I held up the process. So we came to the Planning Commission initially. They asked us to come back to clarify some things. I did say very clearly and publicly, it's been stated by Mr. Riddick now 3 times in these meetings, that I did say this deal is dead in the water if we do not have some kind of allowance on the waterfront setback. I think the waterfront setback, I've said it many times, is an abomination of an ordinance. And the reason I think that is it tramples all over property rights for peoples like the Bridenstines, myself, the Beebes, the Shulos, who may want to build something else later on, even just for themselves, closer to the water. And because somebody's going to lose a slice of their side view, I'm not allowed to do that. I can only do so much. I can only go so far. And the 40-foot was, as Mr. Jurosik said several times, really when the ordinance, and I'm sure some of you are involved in that, but some of this type of situation was never even considered. So we have a very large parcel with with a house close to the water as my neighbor, close to the road, excuse me, as all my immediate neighbors do. Everybody else, for the most part, there's some over by you, Mr. DeWitt, that are longer parcels. But the majority of the parcels, the houses on the bayou, are very close to the water, very close. And, there weren't even, as I think Mr. Scarpino said, and I learned this from Norm Beebe as we chatted about some things, that the whole area over on Cove and all that stuff didn't even exist, like, 50, 60, 70 years ago, whenever it was. It was dredged up from the bottom of the lake and dumped over there, and that's how those homes came to be. So things change. Housing changes. Styles change. People want something different. Today's buyer can't afford, typically, I don't know, that $10 million house over there, whatever it is over in Harbor Point, right? Yeah. So there's two $2 million houses being built on our bayou right now. That's a fact. So, and I'm not saying that our houses are affordable in the true sense. They are proposed to be affordable for lakes, where nobody can afford it. Not enough people can afford it. And it's nice to be able to offer something where people could actually live on the lake. It's right in that nice sweet spot that's not main body of the lake. Because of the condo nature of the development, it would allow people to live there, and where they otherwise couldn't. So I just want to start off with that little history. Sorry, I lost my notes here. I hear Bruce prowling behind me. Okay, so we met with the Planning Commission early last year, or middle of last year. I held up the process because I needed to do research and make sure that we were going to be able to get this done, so that we could actually, if we started the project, we'd actually be able to finish it, and all kinds of good stuff like that. And when I felt confident that we could do that, based on some feedback, the early feedback that I got, or maybe lack thereof, about the waterfront setback, we submitted this spring, and we were. That's why things took so long. So I'm just clarifying that for some of the folks in the audience. It wasn't necessarily Planning Commission's fault at all. It was more my delay in getting it there. So really, we've been working hard on this for a long time. No development is perfect, and certainly not everyone's going to be happy to see it come to fruition. But my goal has always been to create a community that we enjoy, that Ferrisburg can be proud of, and that will benefit the city. And I know the tax revenue is not huge. It might be I don't know, 70 grand a year, something like that. But that adds up over time. You know, I don't know what it costs to put on the parade. I don't know what it costs to do the party in the park, to do the doggy bags on the sidewalks, all those things that are non-essential, things that make Ferrysburg actually a really cool place to live. Those might go away without increased revenue over time. So while everybody says they are all for development, you know, we're for development, but as long as it doesn't affect me personally in any way, including my view, whether you're right next door to us or across the water from us, or maybe not even inside of us. Some people have a problem with it anyway. They feel like you shouldn't have any more boaters, and this is not, nobody in this room I don't think said this, but somebody commented online or something about, or sent in a letter, said if you don't live on the lake, you shouldn't have a say. Well, that's not true. And I think there's situations where people get impacted by new housing going up all the time. Case in point, the new houses that are being built on Spring Lake right now, on the bayou. Everybody gets impacted by that. Houses that are not on Spring Lake. When the Johnsons live across the street from, Mrs. Johnson lives across from the street from me, she's made it very clear, their family has made it very clear, they are building houses there on their 10-acre parcel at some point in the future. Pardon me? Your mother put a letter in the notes the very first meeting, and your brother said it. So, at a meeting, so that made it very clear. But my point is that things change, and housing, the way this neighborhood sits today, not just the immediate 5 parcels in a row that are roughly 2 acres, it's really the broader neighborhood is going to change, and I mean immediately across the street. And when those go in, they're going to be taking out trees and woods and, you know, things like that. It's going to happen. It's just going to change. It's just the nature of the beast. So we're proposing 9 homes, standalone, single-family homes. I just want to be clear, because you weren't part of some of the earlier conversations, we're not allowing short-term rentals. I don't believe that short-term rentals are good for the city of Ferrysburg. They're good for individuals. They're not good for the city. And all they do is jack up prices. We had 2 people call us as soon as this was made public and asked us if we would allow short-term rentals, people we know, and they said they would buy a unit. And we had to say, no, we're not allowing that. I don't want to do that to my immediate neighbors, including Scott and Dina and Julie. I don't want to have that kind of hassle going on, and I don't think it's good for the city. So we're not going to allow that. We put it in the master deed. Yeah. So you know, we tell people you can't do it, and it's legally binding. They can't do it, and I'm more than happy to put that in there. So we're not going to allow short-term rentals. I think the benefits, again, I mentioned the tax revenue, just new residents coming in. You know, people who are going to go to Leppings, people who are going to go to Alamo, people who are going to go to the Reef. Those are all beneficial things. And when you compare that to an Eastbrook development across the road off of Van Wagner, we get nothing out of that. We get zip. All we get is excess car traffic that's going to wear out our infrastructure faster, and all because we haven't had new development here in 25 years or more. So I'm not going to argue the merits of the PUD versus subdivision or anything. It is allowed under the master planning laws. The city attorney has reviewed this. The city planner has reviewed this. The city manager has reviewed this together after Mr. Riddick's comments at the last planning commission meeting. And we are able to do that according to their opinion. And I wanted to make sure that happened and that they made their decision on that before we move forward. And so you guys can argue about that. So I think the waterfront setback, as I've said, I think is a real, we were down to 3 issues. And those are sidewalk setback. I think the variation is a foot. The front setback from 168th, which is 5 feet, and the waterfront setback. And we have I have attempted to speak with both neighbors on both sides before we started this, to talk about it, to come up with a resolution that they could live with, but I got nothing but silence. So what do? I submit and see what happens, and I worked with the planning commission to say, hey, you know, you guys want us to reduce units, we reduced units. They weren't happy, we reduced more. We moved further off the water. We're, I think it's, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but we're 188 feet off the water now, on average, as much as 200 plus off the water on the south side of the building, or south side of the property. And I think that I just ask that as the city council and the planning commission are kind of charged to do, is to look at the long-term vision of the city and say, you know, what's good for the betterment of the entire city. Yeah, it's going to be good for me. I might make some money on this, but you know, it's pretty risky too. I might lose a lot of money. I have a lot of equity in my property, and who knows what's going to happen. I lived through 2008 like the rest of us. So it's not easy to develop. It's very expensive to develop. But I believe that this project would be a good one, and I would be proud to live there and call it my home. So as far as precedents go, I just want to make one last comment before Bruce takes over and goes through some details. And that is, precedent was brought up a long time ago. I don't know if you're aware, but there's this, you know, Veitz Landing property was built in front of a bunch of other houses. That was a combined parcel that was waterfront. They combined two parcels and they built condos that completely blocked everybody's view who was behind them. The Gables was a single family or single development, but that's been there for 25 years. There are 7 or 8 other condo developments in Ferrysburg that were combined parcels. And I would find it very surprising that just because this one gets approved, that man, now everybody's gonna rush into Ferrysburg and start developing. It hasn't happened in 25 years at least. So I'd really find it hard to believe that that is gonna be the big impetus to get everybody to start buying up waterfront parcels and building condo developments. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I wanted Bruce to address some of the very specific questions. And by the way, there is a list of everybody who has written a letter, and I would say it's probably 60 against, 40, maybe 30, for. But as everybody knows, when you sit on a commission like this, there's only the people who really are passionate who show up and talk about it. We have done a lot of canvassing around the bayou, and we know there are other people out there who are supporting it. I'm not going to say a number because I don't have it, but it's a significant number of people. And I also know that there are at least 5 people who are waterfront owners: Galbavis, Fishmans, Carnes, Zonas, Webbers, who are in favor of this. That's 5 that I know of. They're waterfront owners on Smith's Bayou. And I know there are more because we talked to them, but I just don't know their name. So, Bruce, you want to go on up? Yeah, I'll get this that way. I'm going to try not to talk too much. My name is Bruce Colleen with Colleen Engineering right here in Spring Lake. I'm going to try to address those issues or items that I can speak to, and if I've forgotten anything, please
Can you
let me
move
know.
the mic, could you
Get
please?
closer to the mic, please.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Turn it down a little.
All right. Yeah, you're picking on my height now. All right. So with regard to the 4 criteria regarding less than 3 acres, Mr. Riddick spoke to the 4th item, which is the reduction is not proposed due solely to the inability to meet the normal requirements of the zoning district in which the PUD is proposed. And I'm going to repeat exactly what he said. And the purpose for pursuing the PUD option was to create a unique, creative, multifamily development that a conventional subdivision, land division, or reuse of the properties won't accommodate, and not because of the inability to meet the normal requirements of the zoning district. So it's wordsmith. You can use it to however you feel, but the idea was to create a nice, compact community where more people have access to the lakefront than would otherwise be allowed with the
conventional zoning. So we can either stay what we got with just 2 houses aging, tear them down and build 2 very large $1 million homes, or just, up to 2, or we can create a nice community where we can actually share some of those communal effects and provide opportunity for more than just 2 people to have access to the lake. So with regard to the waivers, Mr. Jurosik identified only 3. And with regard to the minimum front setback on internal dwellings, this had nothing to do with the frontage. We meet all of the side yard or the perimeter setbacks for this property, the front and the sides, just not the waterfront, which we've discussed in great detail. We are, again, average 188 feet versus 282. And we've had the whole discussion about the intent of the ordinance. Mr. Riddick has mentioned that the Bridenstines would be most impacted. I argue that the location of the waterfront setback along the south property line as it intersects the 10-foot setback provides more impact if we were to build a building to that corner than what we are proposing here. We are 40 feet off of the side yard rather than just 10, and 50 feet further west, which provides a view shed corridor right next to where they sit out on their deck that they can see all the way across the property. Whereas if we were to build under conventional zoning, we could have a wall right there. So that argument, it's negated. So, but with regard to the setbacks, Mr. Jurosik assigned a rear yard, our front yard setback to our internal drive of 25 feet. The beauty of a condominium project is that we don't have property lines. He just randomly picked something that he could compare. So we believe the side yard setback should be used for this purpose and not the front yard, and which we meet at all locations. As a PUD, the Planning Commission is authorized to grant the waiver of 5 feet, at which they did. And then with the waterfront setback, the reduction of view shed was only 15 degrees and 12 degrees from the south and the north respectively. So that's just a small little wedge in the big circle of view shed that the property owners have. With regard to the sidewalk setback, we purposely placed the front sidewalk along 168th such that if we try to create that urban presence with the houses in the front, that walk up to the front porch. So we placed the sidewalk close to the right-of-way, not knowing whether the improvements to 168th were going to require sidewalk or construct sidewalk or have curb and gutter or widen the road. And so we made the concession and the agreement that once we figure out what they're going to do on 168th, we will either adjust our sidewalk or grant public easement over the sidewalk such that the public can use it. So if it was public and if they were going to do it, it would be in the right-of-way. If they do curb and we don't have to allow for roadside drainage, public roadside drainage. So I think we've got an answer to that concern. So the waivers the 3 waivers that we're requesting are nominal, and both the attorney and the city planner and the planning commission all determined those to be inconsequential. With regard to anything in the floodplain, we don't have our primary stormwater facilities in the floodplain. They are up out of the floodplain. We do create a constructed wetland, and I think people may be concerned that we can't do stuff in the floodplain. We can do stuff in the floodplain. We can't do necessarily stuff in wetlands, which we are avoiding on this property. So, yeah, I'm getting to the I'm getting to the council members. With regard to the fence, on the south side, we have a 6-foot screening fence that is intended to screen some of the traffic from the fire lane, the driveway. Towards the south, we kind of assumed that in conjunction with the screening trees, that we should put a screening fence up for the betterment of all. On the north side, we have just a 4-foot fence. We do have a retaining wall that kind of levels out such that we can keep all of our stormwater on site. So we've raised grade a couple of feet. Your cross-section on the cross-sections notes and details sheet. You can see in the bottom and there in the profile, the existing and proposed grades. We're not proposing that big a grade change. Average, I think, is 2.75 feet. And then we've got the 4 fence on top. And the 4-foot fence, again, is intended to screen headlights should they point towards the north in addition to screening trees. So it's only a 4-foot fence. Sidewalk. So the sidewalk is next to a gutter, and it's next to a 24 or 22-foot drive. The driveway itself meets the city's requirements for width, and but it doesn't provide the very occasional, time that a fire truck will have to use that. So the goal was, rather than pave the planet, why don't we do what they're doing in Hudsonville, whereas they're creating what's called a WUNRF, whereas it's a shared between vehicles, bikes, and pedestrians. However, here we're using different materials to clearly demarcate between the travel lane for vehicles, separated with a 2-foot gutter, which conveys our stormwater where we want it to go, and then a 6-foot sidewalk. That's concrete versus asphalt, clearly demarcated, clear which, as to which is the purpose of each, meets the requirements for the fire, and meets the city's requirements for street width.
Bruce, what do they call that?
It's a WUNRF. WOONER, maybe 2 Fs, but I think at least 1 F.
Thank you.
So, but anyways, I thought I was original, but then I found out they did the same thing. So, so that's what we have in there. It is a private street. It's not public. Actually, it's private drive, and there's, discussion as to whether it's a street or a drive, but we've provided all of the requirements that both the street and the fire require for access. So, if there's anything else, are there any other questions?
Could you?
Docks.
The docks, and also, could you go over the fence again, please?
So the fence, yes. So on the north property line, on the south property line, we're matching grade. We're not filling along the south. So that's maybe to the south. So we have just a 6-foot screening fence, which is what ordinance requires. On the north side, we are raising grade like this high. We'll have a short little retaining wall. Ground goes like this, but on average, the retaining wall is about this high. And above that, we'll have a 4-foot. But as you're on our development, you're just going to see a 4-foot fence with some screening shrubs in front of it. On the other side, you're going to see a short fence or a short wall. No, it's opaque so that we won't have light shining. No, we do have a foot in between, so we got a little bit of light. So we meet the ordinance requirements for for the fence height.
Docks.
Docks. So we did agree that we were not going to provide any more docks than what the, of units. And we were not required or requested to submit revised plans in that regard. Because nothing else changed on the plan, we made the agreement that we would hold true to that agreement, and so we did not revise the plan. But that is our intent.
So the docks, we're looking at 6 fingers.
You're going to have, there
that
should
right?
not be. Yeah.
On this drawing, there's 6 fingers.
That was the old.
And this is in the memorandum.
So we don't have any horn posts. Right now, the way we've drawn it is 1, 2, 10. So we will be taking one of these off.
So you end up with 5 dock fingers coming out. 5. Yeah.
This did not revise the plan, but we already agreed.
Right, I remember that.
So, and when we submit for the permit through Eagle, it will show that.
I just want to clarify that
Yeah.
it's not 9 projections.
No,
from the
no, not at all.
shoreline.
No, it's 9 slips.
It's 9 slips.
So,
And that's what we had agreed to.
yeah. And since it's Smith's Bayou, where it's no wake and you can't get under the bridge part of the time, they're not, these aren't mega yachts. They're just your Smith Bayou boats.
Does anyone have any questions on
Yes, Your
council
Honor.
here? Yes, sir.
Unless Jerry wants to go.
Jerry, you want to go first?
Sure. Thanks, Bruce, for speaking
Sure.
tonight. You've answered a lot of my questions. You mentioned the 3 waivers on the zoning that you guys have
Yes.
applied for and,
Yes.
and received. But you forgot one. There's a zoning ordinance that says you cannot apply for a PUD just to hurdle zoning ordinances. And that's exactly what this development is doing.
I don't believe that's true.
I believe it is true. I believe that's a zoning ordinance.
Okay.
That you cannot use PUDs just to overhurdle zoning. And I believe that's exactly what this development is doing. They applied for a PUD before they even talked to zoning. They knew right out of the gate that this would never be succeeded, could never succeed without a PUD. And so that's what they did. And that breaks the zoning ordinance right there. And I don't know how you overcome that. That's all I had.
Do you have anything to add on that, Craig?
No.
Staff? No? Okay.
Yes.
I don't know whether this will be for you or for David, but I'll
Okay.
just ask the question and you guys can figure out who answers it. Why 9? Why not 8 or 7?
That's his.
I thought so.
As I mentioned, it'd be like asking a business to say, why don't you sell your stuff for a nickel instead of a dime or instead of a quarter or $5? I mean, there's financial realities involved here. And I know everybody thinks that we're going to make a ton of money. And it's really, there's so much risk involved in this. If we have a difference in the cost of the houses of $50,000, this project is underwater. So that is a serious concern. Going any fewer is not an option. It's not a threat. It's just not an option. So
we already reduced the number of units. We reduced the size of the unit. We pushed the buildings away from the side as far as we pushed them back, I don't know, another 70 feet or so from what we originally had. So we're trying to make this thing as compact and non-intrusive as possible and still make it work.
Thank you. Connor?
Yes.
Couple things. Number one, I wasn't on council when we approved, they approved White's Landing. The ordinances you're talking about were not in effect at that time. I was on the council for Gables, and I approved it because they didn't require a bunch of setbacks, I don't recall, I think there was one waiver, which was relatively minor. So to throw your project in the same light as Vice Landing.
It's just an
and
example.
Well, it's an entirely different situation. I just want to throw that out there. I think you tried to misrepresent it. Anyway, I
Yeah.
just wanted to say that, I was involved with one, I was on the zoning board on the other one, and, they presented a plan that was, I think if I recall, Vice Landing, the city required 8 more parking places than what they originally proposed. I don't recall any other variances or issues. I could be mistaken. It's 25 years ago. Anyway.
Well, I think it's important to note, and that we have, this was mentioned several times at the Planning Commission level, with the relationship to the waterfront setback and the view lines of the neighbors. If I could demonstrate kind of like what the difference is, it's not going to be exact, but it's basically, if you look at the edge of that desk here, if this were the Bridenstine's house, which is the one we're really talking about the most, the difference, we already have a barn. If I can, I want to make sure people online can get this. So in, what is this, CO1 in your packets, there's a barn sitting right here. It's my barn. It's almost the size of a house. We're about, 40 feet or so beyond the existing barn that's there in the middle of the property. So from their house over here, the difference is this line, and I believe it's in your packets, but to this line. They have their entire view of 150 feet of frontage unencumbered, unblocked. We will never, ever get in the way of that. If they were to step 20 feet, 100 feet, 50 feet, whatever number you want to give, out from their house, there is no change in their view. None. Well, I mean, a very small one. I shouldn't say none. So they don't own that view. They have no right to that view. There's nothing in the Michigan law that says they have the right to that view. And they will be able to see all the way across our both properties without any problem, all the way to where the water comes in over here. They can almost see all the way to your house if there weren't trees in the way and that kind of stuff. So just the scale of what we're talking about here is not really that significant. It's a 15-degree difference. We started out, yeah, it was a lot. It was 35 degrees. Don't quote me exactly on that number. So I know there's an attorney in the room who's going to take every word I say and try and parse it and use it to his advantage. But no offense, no offense. Yeah, thank you. So, in the case of the Shulos, in this direction, it's, they have 230 feet of frontage, which is the only thing that blocks their view currently is some trees that, are on this lot line that they let grow, and they planted more just the other day. So on this side, they've got a barn that's right almost at the water, or a garage that's almost at the water. So the idea that we're like really blocking their view is, I think, a little too much. We're talking about they have all of this view. They have all of this view. She has all of this view. And we're talking about 40 foot of difference. So even though I don't like the waterfront setback rule as it sits today, because if we decided, let's just say, for example, that Mr. Beebe decides that he wants to sell his house to somebody else for some reason, he is locked in to where my house is and where the Shulo's house is. He can't, if somebody wanted to buy this property, he couldn't, they could not build a new house here anywhere closer to the water than maybe another 20 feet or something like that. I wouldn't care if he did. I've already got a barn here, but That's just the fact. So that's a flaw in that ordinance, that it's way too restrictive for large parcels like this. And that's just something that could be resolved in the future. But I think reasonably speaking, we're adding an additional 40 feet of building that blocks a little bit more view.
Anyone else have any other questions? Council?
Your Honor, of course, I got.
Something new to add?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
very good.
Brockmeyer.
Sorry, I'm trying to get that back in there.
You express you're against setbacks, and you think that they're a flaw in our
I
ordinance.
didn't say I was against setbacks. I said I was against that ordinance.
Okay, well.
Being
against
so
the ordinance
restrictive.
of setbacks, the ordinance is,
Okay, I'll take it.
how do you think somebody would feel that bought a house next to Mr. Beebe, and then Mr. Beebe sells his house, and then they build a McMansion next to that house, and they put it right up against the water when the neighbors are sitting up on the road? Do you think that's
I am
fair
that
to
person.
the existing neighbors?
I am that person.
Well, you're
I
saying
bought
you're
the
against
house
the
next to his
setbacks.
house.
That's why the setbacks exist.
And
So
if he-
people
and if
can't do that, and now you're asking us to overlook that.
No, I'm not. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I oppose this ordinance in its existing form. It's too restrictive on my property rights, on Mr. Beebe's property rights, and even on the Bridenstines.
I believe you said in general, but that's negotiable. My point is, how would you feel if you bought a house next to Mr. Beebe and he sold his house and somebody built right up on the water and it blocked your view?
I live in the United
As a
States.
neighbor, you would not appreciate that. So
No,
why are you asking us to go against your neighbors and do things that they're not
Can-
going to appreciate?
I would have no problem. I've said this to them personally, or I've said it publicly to other people here in this room. If my neighbors decided they wanted to do something like that, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Okay, well,
That's
you're-
just me.
You're a rare breed, but
Well,
I
you
just want to.
they own the property. I don't.
And the reason I'm making this a point is because I believe zoning is put in place to make sure neighbors are kept
Yeah, I get it.
friendly and
Yeah.
there's no confrontation. And when we start overlooking zoning ordinances.
Well, we all know there's been plenty of
especially on the water,
conflicts in
especially on the
Ferrisburg.
bayou,
Yeah.
which is very precious to this city.
Yeah.
Then I hope that this council really takes into consideration what was being asked of us here.
Yeah.
Because that bayou has been a natural resource and a beautiful setting for the city for forever.
And it will stay that way. It still will be.
I hope so.
I hope so too. I mean, I'm going to live there. I want it to be. I want that bayou to be as beautiful as it possibly can be, as clean and clear as it possibly can be. I live there. I know that. I want the property values to stay high. I don't want to see them go down. I don't want to see my neighbors' property values go down, which I know they will not. I know that that's a concern that people have raised in the past, that we're going to destroy property values. That is not true.
That is true. I disagree with you.
Respectfully,
Okay.
I can cite for you the exact properties that are next to condos on Spring Lake that have all gone up in value since the condos went up, including the Gables.
Okay.
That fact doesn't matter, but it's true.
It's not a fact. It's another property you're comparing with your property. It's
No,
not-
I'm comparing that next to their values went up.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you're talking, they're gonna block just a little bit of the side view of the neighbor? Is that the problem?
Yes.
A little bit of a side view. They
Yeah.
own 100 and how many feet?
150
So
feet.
what's the problem? I mean,
Well,
really?
I mean, I understand.
I lost
believe
side
me.
view, you can live with it.
I understand their concern. I've been friends with them for a long time, and I understand the concern.
But that's
But
what
it's
the
not
problem
as
is, right?
extreme as it's being
Right.
laid out to be. It's just not.
Any other council member have anything? Jake? Nothing to add?
Yeah, I have some stuff to add. I wanted to wait and hear from the developer before I said anything. I do feel like I owe it to the people that are here, my constituents, to kind of explain where I stand on this and how I intend to vote. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone that's attended all the meetings, submitted feedback regarding Cottage Shores. I believe local government works best when citizens are engaged and elected officials are attentive and responsive to citizen concerns. It's one of the reasons that I pursued a position on city council, was that I've witnessed in the past city council not being responsive to citizens. So I appreciate all of you being in attendance and expressing your opinions. I understand that the prospect for change can be scary, and I know that that's been said several times. But I really think that a lot of that is the crux of the issue here. It's especially scary for neighbors that are in close proximity to the development. I understand your concerns. You are fighting for what you believe is best for your own personal circumstances. But as a member of City Council, I have to make a decision that I believe is best for the city of Ferrysburg. There have been several meetings about the proposed Cottage Shores development since Mr. Brockmeyer approached the city. Both citizens and the Planning Commission recommended changes that Mr. Brockmeyer could make to address concerns regarding density, sightlines, and water setback requirements. Mr. Brockmeyer presented 3 versions of his development before the PC finally approved his final site plan that is before us today. Anyone that suggests that the community input has not mattered in regards to this development is being disingenuous. The Planning Commission is a group of unpaid volunteers who have spent many, many hours on Cottage Shores, conducting meetings, listening to citizens, and recommending changes in hopes that this development could be viewed as a compromise between citizens who oppose this development and Mr. Brockmeyer. And I believe the final site plan that they are recommending for approval reflects that. The reasons that I support Cottage Shores are the following. Ferrysburg's population has been flat for 30 years. 30 years, since the 1990 census, we've added 1 new resident per year. City costs are rising, but tax revenue is basically flat, which makes timely maintenance of infrastructure difficult. And as Mr. Brockmeyer said, there has not been a new standalone single-family development in Ferrysburg in over 20 years. I respect the Planning Commission's recommendations, and I will be voting yes to approve the site plan for Cottage Shores. That's it.
Anyone else have anything? We have a motion and support on the floor.
Could we hear the motion again, please?
Yes, please.
So at this time, the motion is to deny or to adopt the resolution, or I'm sorry, the motion would be not adopt a resolution approving a planned unit development, special land use request for a residential conventional condominium development with 9 single-family detached dwelling units served by private streets and driveways at 17753 168th Avenue and 17771 168th Avenue, parcel numbers 7003094950006 and 7003094950007.
Thank you. Everyone clear about that? So motion is to not approve.
This motion is to say, we do not want this.
If you don't want it, vote no. If you want it, vote no.
No, that'd be the opposite.
The motion is not to approve. So if you vote yes, it's not approving. Thank you.
Did you have a comment, Mr. Reddick?
We speak in the mic,
Your Honor.
just so everybody.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion, I think public comments and comments are over.
Chair recognized me, so.
Yeah, I mean,
I will recognize you.
There's been a lot of talk about the gables. We have actual aerial photos of that to show
Is
that
this-
it
Go
had
ahead.
0 impact on sight lines of surrounding neighbors, unlike this development.
This is not.
And White's Landing as well. It's not even subject to the waterfront setback averaging because the homes in question are on the other side of the road. It's entirely on a peninsula, so it'd be entirely approvable without any variances under your ordinance. Just to be clear
Exactly
about that.
Thank you.
I used to swim on that peninsula when I was a kid. It was all nice wooded peninsula, condominiums.
Motion and support on the floor. Amber, everyone is clear about yes and no? What's that?
are you clear?
No.
So this is a motion to deny the,
If you're gonna vote,
if
yes
you
is
vote,
for denial, no is for
So if you would
Maybe
like
get
to
another
s-
motion on the
Yeah.
floor.
Okay.
Clear?
Councilmember Sturley.
He's not clear.
I'm not clear on it either, after I just explained it.
Okay, really quick. So if you vote yes at this moment, you're voting, okay, you're good? Okay, everyone is?
No.
You're, you're not all okay?
Approved denial.
At this time, if you vote no, you do not approve the denial.
You got it right. I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Councilmember Murdoch.
No.
Councilmember Montgomery.
No.
Councilmember DeWitt.
Yes.
Councilmember Kate.
No.
Councilmember Sias.
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
No.
Motion passed. Or, I'm sorry, motion denied.
Yes.
Yes.
Need another motion.
Mr.
So
Kalin?
now we have a
We know how
motion.
to run the, you can sit down.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to make a motion to adopt the resolution approving a planned unit development and special land use request for a residential convention condominium development with 9 single-family detached dwelling units served by private streets and driveways at 17753 168th Avenue and 17771 168th Avenue, parcels number 700309 495-006 and 700309-495-007.
Support.
Motion and support on the floor. Any discussion?
Your Honor, I have
Yes?
question. Correct. We've got several questions about the boat slips.
Yes, sir.
The plan in front of us has more than what we've committed to. Or what are we approving tonight? Do we need to amend the motion to specifically say no more boat slips than units, or is that in a memorandum?
That would be in the memorandum. And every other permit is gonna be required before the development moves forward.
Correct.
Clear? Okay. Anyone else?
As far as the fence, they'll still require the permit for that afterwards?
For the docks?
For the fence?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Okay.
Anyone else? Seeing none, Amber?
Councilmember Murdoch.
Yes.
Councilmember Montgomery. Councilmember DeWitt.
No.
Councilmember Kate.
Yes.
Councilmember Sias.
No.
Councilmember Sturley.
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion for a recess.
So moved.
Thank you.
Your Honor?
We're going to take a 10-minute recess, so we're going to reconvene at 9:25.
I just want to cover this one. And then.
What's that?
Oh, I didn't see a letter from you in the packet. Yeah, I called him today.
And then you stand up or get on your feet, and you're 100% for this resolution.
What I was against was a lot of opinion that I heard versus what was fact. That's truthfully how I feel. I felt there was a lot of opinion being passed on this fact. There's people, when people are talking on behalf of unnamed people, I don't believe that I think I said in my statement, I said that I understand the people that are concerned, especially that are this is in their backyard.
You were 100%. Even before.
God
7 today, 10 tomorrow, 12 the next week. When's it gonna end, Bruce? When do we start taking care of our, yeah, we do. No, but on the water, yeah. There's plenty of other places to develop besides on our bayou, Bruce. No, Bruce, no, Bruce. Yeah, we're landlocked and we're screwed because of Spring Lake Township and they keep putting pressure on our infrastructure and that stops us from being able to develop. But that's the situation we're in. That don't mean we need bad development, Bruce. It doesn't mean that we need bad development. It's bad development. It's a cram job. And we both know it. Would you live next door to me?
I would not. If it again, if it was city council, I would not.
You could vote however you wish.
I like creative.
Don't tell me that's gonna improve their property value. No, it won't. Just because the comps are higher, it still doesn't make a bit of difference on the selling price. That's a fact. It is a fact.
Very nice. If you ever need anything, don't get your paper. Good night. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'm like, let me think about that. Well, you do need eyes and ears. Something's wrong. What's he gonna do? I'm asking him. Yeah. That was a big question. No, me? And you must have listened to me during recess.
I speak with emotion.
At the end of the day, people are laying out for us if we want everybody to remove it.
Right. I understand that it's emotional.
All right.
You said 9:25. We still got 6 minutes. I want to stand up.
Just do the next one? Yeah. Yep. Oh, no, but I will. Yes. You know why? So when the Air Force goes in, build a base, the first things they do is things like barracks, golf courses, right, everything, right? And they blow all their money. Right? Seriously. Because if the Marine Corps does that, for example, or the Army,
He's figuring out what he's gonna do.
right, the Air Force comes in, the last thing they do is we run it. And they go back and they say, we're out of money, we need a runway. And they're like, I mean, it's a strategy.
Thank you. I'd like to apologize for standing up and being rude and saying everything from.
We've written your name down.
There's Heidi.
Well, I did my grandson at the Air Force Academy. Okay. Yeah, he went. He's gone. He's there. We're so happy. We're so happy he's there.
I used to babysit those critters. I got a quick story.
It's just the amount of extra families, the extra amount of traffic. They're driving in right there. That's also
I hope he's doing okay. You're so patient. You're so patient. Yeah, I
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm already medicated. So they wouldn't do you? Oh. Wow. That's not nice. Well, good. I mean, that's terrible, though. That's been a long time.
Right? Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Appreciate your information.
We'll be back here.
He's outspoken.
Yeah, I know.
Turns out, whatever that is.
Thank you, Scarabino. Thank you for your wisdom tonight.
You know, this is my backyard. Okay, and the Johnsons own the property, this property back there. And they've said they're gonna put all kinds of houses back.
Okay.
Right? They said it in the planning
Yeah,
commission.
yeah.
Anybody gonna give a rat's ass about my serenity and you being
Yeah.
scared by all that?
That's what I mean. It is what it is.
But, good meeting. Well done, you guys. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Send Mr. DeWitt in here, would you please?
Paging Mr. DeWitt and Sias. We got a minute. We had a quorum.
Craig just went.
Mayor, we've got a quorum.
We do.
You got him, Craig?
Yep. Don't listen to me though. Put yourself in for a word.
Oh, gosh.
$9:25. show me the way to go home. Oh, look at that. This isn't just a hobby.
Oh, good.
Actually, we are totally bit free. Anybody, anything.
Pretty much.
Like,
Time we moved into this condo, I was doing double thing. And then early last year, the house we owned in Spring Lake, my daughter had been renting it from us. They decided they were outgrowing it. So they went and found their own place in Muskegon. I put that place up for sale. In 4 days, I had 9. Triple our money on it. I paid off this mortgage. So,
I always made extra payments, but then when we refinanced and one dropped so low that things.
Nobody got shot. No, I got
Amber, are we okay? Amber, are we okay online? Yep. Okay, very good. We can reconvene our meeting, moving on to agenda item 7C. Discussion and take action if appropriate to make a donation to the J. Patrick Twa Scholarship Fund held at the Grand Haven Area Community Foundation. Craig?
So Patrick Trow was a council member who passed away. And a couple years ago, City Council made a generous donation to a fund that's being held at the Grand Haven Community Foundation of $2,000. We have another request to make another donation to this fund. Put some material on your dais tonight that, and he kind of explains that the city is really kind of restricted on what they do for donations. Something like this really is not permitted by the Michigan Constitution to make a donation to. It has to be for a public purpose. It has to be for a significant benefit to the number of people to benefit from this donation. And I'm not sure this donation would qualify for that.
So there's a difference between a donation and funding. We'd have to fund this as a budget item.
No, you can't fund something
Can't
like
do
that.
it.
No.
Okay.
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
My understanding of the law is specific that we can't make a donation to a private entity such as this. Is that correct, Craig?
Right. It has to be for a public
It's pretty
purpose.
cut and dried. We cannot do it.
It's correct. Be my recommendation not to deny it.
I would make a motion, we deny it. Seeing as how we can't do it anyway legally. Am I correct in that, Craig?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Your Honor, Craig, wasn't this set up as an educational fund in the beginning for the trades or something?
The scholarship, yep.
Wouldn't that be considered as for the public, that type of
I'm
501c?
not sure it's a significant number of people in the public that would benefit from something like this.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
So there's a motion on the floor. Do we have support?
I will.
Can I put a little?
Of course. Oh,
Certainly you can speak.
well, you might want to ask the mayor.
I'll support this.
In the past, I've tried to quiet you down and it don't
Got
work.
his support.
Okay, so we, my sons and I, after Patrick passed, and he served the city of Ferrysburg while we lived here for over 4 years. And as a craftsman, we wanted to continue the tradition in skilled trades. I worked out a situation with the Career Line Tech Center where they provide me with candidates who are in skilled trades. And then through different bits of information that I receive, including their resume, they have to submit a essay, and they have to have their, or I'm provided with their transcripts from the school that they attend. And I also get their application for applying for other scholarships. And this is through the Grand Haven Area Community Foundation. It is not endowed, which basically means that I have and my children, we have the ability to make a selection on our own who receives that money, as opposed to the foundation making that, which would be an endowed, and that would go on for perpetuity. What we've been able to do at this point, and maybe it's not something that the council would want to do, maybe it's something you want to do personally, but we have been able to provide 11 students each with $1,000 for them to purchase tools in their skilled trade. And so this year, May 1st, we presented 3 in automotive and 3 in construction. And I'm not looking for students who are going on to college. I want those students who want to go to a trade school. They're working already in an apprenticeship with a builder or with a car dealership or something of that nature. And so what I'd like to do is just kind of give you a little quick, this is a memo that I received from someone who works for Crown Motors, and Crown Motors is one of my sponsors. They are giving us $500 to go towards the scholarship. He says, my name is Neil Hemphill. I work with the service department at Crown Motors. I received an email forwarded by Craig Van Beek regarding the scholarship for Career Line students. As a former technician who started with a similar program to the automotive program at CTC, I am passionate about the skilled trades and currently involved in the Ottawa County Career Line Tech Center Advisory Board. I was thrilled, excuse me, I was thrilled to hear about your event and would like to learn more about it. So basically what that is referring to is we are having an annual car show that's being held here in Ferrysburg. It's on Elm Street. We did it last year and we raised $2,800 for the fund. And so this year we're on track with, I mean, it's going to be a tremendous event. And we've got the support of Johnston Boilers. We have the support and the sponsorship from Verplanks. We have support and financial support from Leppings as well as Pine Street Cafe. So this is really, not to mention the different companies that are all lining Elm Street, 5th Street, and around Oak and all that area in your industrial area. And so at this stage of the game, we're expecting it could be 60 to 100 cars, classic cars that will be entered at the car show. We have a local food truck, which is Smoke and Ash, that is from Mama Mia's, or Mia's Eats, I think is their new name. And we also have an ice cream truck that will be coming along with a local band that will be playing. So this is going to be very important, I believe, to the city of Ferrysburg. And you wonder, you know, what does the, you know, how does it cater to and how is it benefiting the city of Ferrysburg? Not only do we know about the students, but we also know how this event will be affecting the local businesses. So I would just ask whether the council turns it down or it doesn't qualify under certain criteria. I understand that. If you have a business, if you are in a position where you too would like to support, I have information and flyers for you to have for your information. Do you have any questions that I could answer for you?
Anyone have any questions? Art?
Can I ask a question, Craig?
Yeah.
Is the problem with this that the appropriation isn't under control of the city and village, and it's actually privately controlled? Is that the issue there?
Not so much that. It's just, it's not really for a public purpose.
Okay.
The city in the past has made a donation to Mulligan's Hollow when they were doing improvements. Years back, when the Katrina hurricane in New Orleans, we made a donation to that fund down there, the $500. That's about the only 2 times I remember donation besides the TWA donation.
This is a request for a second donation, correct?
That's correct.
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
I believe we made a, donation to the ski bowl at some point in time.
Yeah, Mulligan's Hollow, yeah.
Was that what, that's what you're thinking of?
Craig, is there any other way the city can support? Are there permits that we can waive for this car show, or?
We're not requiring any permits. They requested to have the street closed down, and we'll work with them to close that street down for that car show.
We're not charging them anything?
No.
Anyone else have any other comments before we vote?
Your Honor, personally, I'm all for this organization and contributing. I don't want to get the city in any kind of hot water, although, so I'm kind of crossroads. I'm kind of on the fence here what to do. You know, I guess I got to take advice of our city manager when it comes to situations.
Well,
But I would
still-
really
you'd
love
still
to-
come and
yeah.
support and visit, and it's
Yeah.
we've had a tremendous amount of support. And when this year we gave, like I say, $6,000 to 6 students, 4 of the students were from Holland, 1 was from Hudsonville, and 1 was from Grand Haven. So Crown Motors out of Zealand was very supportive in giving us funding for that. So yeah, we've gotten a tremendous amount of financial support that we hope to continue on a yearly basis. We've been giving $6,000 away for 2 years, and we may be able to increase it to more than that to keep kids in skilled trades and give them the opportunity to purchase tools that they need. Those that are in automotive actually get 50% off their tools through Matco. So that's kind of cool.
When we originally talked about this, was it last year? Was it last year?
21.
21?
23. 22, whatever.
22? I think it was
Yeah.
22, right?
I thought I looked it up, but I thought it was 21.
I don't know.
A few years ago.
Well, he
Yeah.
died
I
in
can- I can-
December of 21,
Yeah,
so it would have been 22.
I think I gave to it, actually. You're working towards a scholarship fund. Are you no longer pursuing that?
The Community Foundation has specific criteria for a scholarship, quote unquote, which would mean for us to have $25,000 or more in the fund
Yeah.
for that to be considered a scholarship. And so
20,
we're
yep.
calling it a scholarship.
Okay. And are you guys exploring the option of at some point making this an endowed fund so that lives on?
At this stage of the game, I like the fact that I get to select who I want, you know, and my boys, we sit down
You
together.
should still
and-
be able to.
and go through. You can, but I really like to kind of keep it as it is. I mean, it may not go to perpetuity or for that. It may go, you know, until my kids pass away or whatever. So we'll have to see. But initially, my thought was to be endowed, but I just soon keep it the way that it is.
Okay.
Serving our purpose better. I don't want to keep you guys any longer.
So
You
we have
good?
a motion on the floor for denial, so a yes vote is for denial. Anyone have anything else?
Clear on that?
Clear on that? Okay, very good. Amber?
Councilmember Montgomery.
Yes.
Councilmember DeWitt.
No.
Councilmember
Hold
Kate.
it.
Yeah.
Yes is a denial?
Yes. Correct.
Yes.
You made the motion.
Councilmember Kate.
Yes.
Councilmember Sias.
Yes.
Councilmember Sturley.
Yes.
Councilmember Murdoch.
Yes.
Mayor Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Very good. Greg, in order for us to table 7E, F, and G, would you like, do we need to entertain a motion?
No, the consensus of council, if that's what the consensus of council is, we can just go with that.
Does any-
You guys don't want to talk forever millage tonight?
I'm supportive.
no problem.
I'm supportive of adjourning.
Okay, very good. We'll move on, then we'll move on to city reports.
Okay.
Greg?
Yep. No report?
No report. City council, who would like to go first?
I will.
Very good.
I don't know if everybody on the council got this, memo from the county, seat on the Ottawa County Materials Management Planning Committee. Is anybody interested in that? No. Speak up. Okay, so my proposal would be that we, it doesn't have to say elected city officials or someone we can designate. I think we should open this up to perhaps the planning commission. I know, who do we just put on there?
Gary Post.
Gary Post may be interested. Stirk may be interested. I think, if somebody's willing to serve, we should, open it up. Is that, possible, Craig?
Yes, we can distribute it to other boards and commissions.
Okay, that's all I got.
I sent you. Forward that to
Yeah.
those groups.
Yeah, if somebody wants to serve, they have the passion, go for it.
Everybody amenable to that? Great.
I'm done.
Good. Mr. Kate? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, one thing, Nora fundraiser, Craig, help me out. Is it the 16th?
Yes.
All right, 16th, we're having our fundraiser at the Unicorn. It's going to be outside in the new section. We'll have a silent auction and a 50-50 raffle, in addition to some great food. So I encourage everyone to come. I will send out a link to purchase tickets this year. We are asking for purchasing tickets. And then on top of, I think they're $25. And then on top of that, if you guys know of any local businesses that are interested in being sponsors, either of the event, of one of the various NORA events, or would like to provide a silent auction item, all donations are welcome. It's a fantastic cause, as all of you know. It provides scholarships for all kinds of different activities, but specifically the summer school program at Lake Hills, which has been a tremendous success this year as it has in the past. So a good opportunity for kids that can't always afford to do this kind of stuff. So
great.
End of report.
Thank you. Jake?
Last KLH Dunes Preserve Board meeting, we had presented to us service projects from Eagle Scouts. We're doing some signposts in the preserve. There's a major push for some improving the signs within the preserve right now, between that initiative and what some of the other board members are doing. So signage should be improving vastly here in the near future.
Are we doing signage that is mimicking what they're doing in Ottawa Sands?
Yeah, they're trying to kind of mesh the two together to kind of make it seem somewhat seamless.
Can I ask something? I walked back there, I don't know, last weekend, 2 weekends ago. I noticed a bunch of, new to me, since last year or the year before, hiking trail signs, trail identifiers. It looks like, I don't know, 5-6 inch metal signs on a 4-inch post. Some of them are crooked, or I'm just concerned about people cutting themselves on those.
There's
signs.
an initiative to improve all of that.
What's that?
It's kind of an ongoing initiative.
Okay,
right now to
all right.
improve all of that.
Yep, awesome.
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Jake, there was some discussion a while back about the shoreline restoration. Is that still ongoing? Any update on that?
Yeah, it's ongoing. I think Craig could probably give a little better rundown on that.
So we got the Eagle permit, we just got the Army Corps of Engineers permit. And so what's gonna happen now is the consultant is gonna go out there with a couple of board members. And they're gonna identify some trees that can be used in the project. And they expect to get it going sometime this month.
Oh, great.
Thank you for the update.
Great. Gary?
Had a good time at the food truck event last week. It was a pretty good turnout. I think the heat kind of derailed a little bit of the people coming out, but yeah, it was a good time. But no report. That's it.
Debbie?
Well, we're ready. I hope the weather holds up.
4th of July.
We're having the 4th of July picnic, and we've got everything lined up, and the prizes are all sorted, ready to give out to the Oh, I'm hoping for a good turnout.
What time do we need to be here to sling pancakes?
I don't know, I don't do the
Craig?
mayor's breakfast.
8 o'clock, open the doors.
8 o'clock?
Do you want us here at 8 o'clock?
Few minutes early.
Okay, a few minutes early.
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Do we have enough volunteers for the pancake? Here's breakfast.
Bill, are you going?
Yeah.
I think we're
He and I
probably-
both have hats, so we can flip bird.
I mean, you're welcome to come,
Hey,
but.
I got a hat.
You can come.
That was 10 years ago I got the hat.
All right, you're on.
Do you need another body? I mean, I'll come if
I mean, I don't know that we need it, but the more the merrier.
Oh, yeah.
You're welcome to come.
If you can come, that'd be great.
well, I know I can come.
Yeah.
Sounds like Will and Bill don't really want to share duties.
The question is, do you need me to come?
We always entertain like celebrity chefs every year. So.
All right, I'll plan on being here.
Wonderful. And I don't have anything to add except for the mayor's breakfast, and then after that is the parade.
Right.
And after that is the party in the park,
Correct.
correct? Live music, no live music?
Live music, same as bands last year.
Live music, food truck as well, or not? No food trucks?
Hot dogs.
Oh, wonderful.
Craig, did we get more flags this year?
Yes, more candy.
And more candy.
So who's walking in the parade that wants to give out candy and flags?
I will walk and give out candy and flags.
I was gonna drive my Jeep.
Okay.
Does the city have a trailer or float or just? You
Yeah,
just
we have a float, but we didn't put it in the picnic or the parade this year. We usually put it in the Coast Guard Festival Parade.
okay. So you're asking people just to walk and pass out candy, just throw on a shirt?
Yeah.
Yeah. My
Think about it.
my daughter sprinted the entire parade last year, handing out flags. So we'll do that again this year.
So, Coast Guard, or
We
4th
did
of
both.
July. I didn't know if you want to bring a wagon or something to carry
Yeah, I can do that.
supplies.
I can bring a wagon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
We'll have candy and flags for you.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Support.
Oh, Craig, I don't know if you've noticed, there's a broken arm for one of the flags right up from Olympics.
Hey, Mike.
They got them on order.
Okay.
If you come sling pancakes, we're gonna have to tell everybody you're running for county. Cause I mean, that's the third.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
usually Roger. It's usually Roger.
So many good things now.